Hastings community. This is Valerie Henning Piedmont, Superintendent of Schools.
And I'm Maureen Caraballo, the business official.
Maureen and I wanted to use this opportunity to share additional information with you about our February 6th vote. Maureen, do you want to talk to our public about the Hillside addition? Because there's some questions with regards to the use of those capital reserve funds. And one of the questions had to do with, suppose we don't need all the funds.
Yes. So the vote on February 6th is to ask the public for authorization to use the current balance that's available in the Capital Reserve Fund, which is $1.3 million. And the need has arisen with our current project at Hillside, and our current estimates provided to us by the construction manager are showing the project to be running a bit over, and and again, those are very conservative numbers. We want to be really thoughtful and make sure that we have the correct funding prior to moving forward with the project. So this vote would enable us, if the need arises when we're going out with the project, to meet the entire budget of that project. So currently, it seems as though we would need. With our current estimates, we're looking for that entire balance, but we would not expend or take the funds out of there if, in fact, we did not need it to finish the work.
Sure.
So, but by allowing us the full authorization, the public is allowing us to access it up into that amount if need be.
Right, and that's traditionally what happens, I understand, and when with these kinds of projects, that we are asking the public if we could use the funds, but knowing that there's a set amount and there's nothing beyond that we can actually use.
Correct. So we would only, of course, be authorized to what the current balance is, and not only the current balance, but what we're asking, to use the entire balance at this point. So if there was any money to be put in there subsequent to that vote, it would only be up to that authorization amount that we would be seeking. And again, we would only be we would only be accessing the amount that we would need to finish the work that we're looking to do.
The law is pretty clear around all that.
Yes, it is. I mean, again, it's tied to that, and it's not to exceed that.
Wonderful. And the other question we've gotten has to do with, what's going to happen if, for some reason, we suddenly experience some kind of repair out of the ordinary? The board has already agreed to use the reserve and the funds that were in the repair reserve account, and now those monies are in the capital reserve account or fund that we're going to be drawing down on. What happens, if we do experience, as I said, some kind of expense that's going to, be more than, let's say, what we would typically have? It's not like buying cleaning supplies, but something fairly significant.
So, any type of emergency repair that may be needed, the way we would typically, and the way we currently also handle it is, each year our buildings and grounds budget does have some money dedicated each year to, actually it's called emergency repairs, building upkeep, and things that may come up during the course of a school year. And traditionally we have around between $100,000 to $140,000 to meet those needs. So if this would be a repair that would happen during a course of a year where we've either used some of those funds or have exhausted those funds, we would first look into our operating budget, and if we had the ability or had funds in another part of the budget that were not needed and that could be used to address the repair, that would be our first recommendation to the board to authorize that. And if that wasn't the case, and our current operating budget could not support, or we wouldn't have the money available to address the repair, we would then need to either access some money out of our unappropriated fund balance reserve, which is currently about $2 million, and again is the place that would be the kind of step two if in fact we could not handle it within our operating budget. In terms of things that will come up, I mean, the one piece is that much of our more expensive infrastructure kind of needs are currently either have been addressed or will be addressed with this upcoming bond, such as our roofing, our building envelope, as well as our boiler. Other repairs that would come up would not more than likely exceed a certain dollar amount, being that the majority of our larger ticket items are being addressed and will of course be warranted. And then in terms of anything, just to kind of remind our public that we do have insurance, and if something such as a broken pipe of
Right,
some sort,
exactly.
those are items that are covered
Covered
by
under
insurance.
warranty
Yes,
and
and
insurance.
warranty. So I guess in thinking of, there could be, of course, a bathroom or something that would need to be
Mhm.
repaired, or something, a plumbing issue
Mhm.
that would require, to be addressed, or, maybe a door that would need to be repaired or replaced, windows and things such as that, that would fall typically under an emergency repair,
Mhm.
because many things are either covered by insurance, and again, I think, thankfully the community has supported and invested in keeping our buildings with roofs and,
Mhm.
infrastructure, mechanical, up to date. So,
Mhm.
we're glad that we have that.
Absolutely, yeah, and thank you for maintaining our facilities, plan, which also is a way for us to carefully, monitor, the expiration of certain things, and that we are aware, and we can budget appropriately and take care of those things. So that's also, the kind of fiscal oversight that, you as the business official has been managing very well. In terms of this notion of using the capital reserve for the Hillside project, is this the best use of the funds? And this is one of the questions that we're getting. Is this the best use of those funds?
Well, the capital reserve fund, as it was authorized and as the board set it up, this is one of the areas in which was identified in terms of building additions, building renovations. The capital fund was set up to address a host of many, or a variety of capital needs that could exist currently or may exist in the future within the district. This is in fact a correct use of those funds, in such as that this is a capital need that the district has identified. The board, in terms of having their professional team of architects and construction managers, are presenting a budget that would need this additional funding to close the funding gap. So in terms of the legal and applicable use, they are in fact, we are in fact able, and it would be within its, within our rights to use it. I think because of the fact that we are, again, just mentioning that, this current bond referendum is addressing so many of our capital needs that currently exist, and really is putting our district in addressing so many repairs and upgrades, that I think in accessing these funds toward the completion of this project would be
it's the applicable use, appropriate use.
Yes.
And it's also we get some reimbursement.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
By if the voters do in fact approve any type of monies coming from that fund, and they are voter authorized to be used toward a capital project, then we would be entitled to state aid back on those funds.
Mm-hmm. Very, very important. So other questions that have come up with regards to the infrastructure and the capital needs. What's being recommended? So we currently have other capital infrastructure needs, as that's noted in our plan. With the current recommended use of these funds, how will these funds, or how will this be funded? How will we take care of this?
So the district, as all districts are required, to keep track of our building condition survey, which really just speaks to doing kind of an annual visual inspection of your buildings and identifying, based upon age and condition, items that you would be planning for, and kind of keeping note of in terms of your long-term, your current facilities needs, as well as your long-term planning to address those needs. So currently on our BCS, there will always, I believe, with especially the age of these buildings and the use of them, we're constantly investing in our infrastructure here in the district. So in relation to that, we do have some of the items addressed on there will be addressed through our normal budgetary operating process. We do, again, I mentioned, in addition to repair funds that are budgeted for every year, there's also some monies that goes into the interfund transfer that has been, and it's not only a practice that Hastings has, it's part of most, if not all districts, annual budgeting practices to address things, because you don't want to be constantly issuing bonds either. You want to be able to maintain things on a yearly basis, and again, like anything, you want to be able to address them before they become more expensive.
Absolutely.
So many of the items on there, although some are identified in the 5-year plan, much of them will be addressed within probably more likely a 10-year span, because many of those items are either on there just based upon age, just making sure we always look at it, and there's sometimes a priority shift depending upon the condition of things, or if something deteriorates more than another piece, that may move up on the plan. So again, it is part of our overall budgeting process. It's looked at as part of our yearly operating budget. It's looked at as part of our long-term bond projects, as well as just planning and ensuring the safety and of our plan.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other sort of points that contributes to this or supports this is the fact that we have a number of tradespeople here that are highly skilled, who are also helping to offset some of the cost of certain things that if the district didn't have these staff members available, we would have to pay someone to come in and do those. So that's not a sort of an insignificant fact as well.
Yeah, we have a highly trained, a highly skilled staff here in our Buildings and Grounds department. I mean, they're wonderful. I could sit here and talk about them. We could talk about them all day because they're amazing. And from our cleaners to our custodians to our maintenance workers, our building, our groundskeepers, they have a very high level of expertise. They're tradesmen by trade. They came to us, and they have not only been able to address and help us maintain our buildings, they've also been able to enhance many of our learning spaces throughout the indoor and outdoor. So we are very fortunate to have the entire department that we do have. And because of them, I believe that they've been able to keep our buildings and address many things that would normally need to be addressed through an outside contractor.
They do.
That's also, I think, part of our overall planning. I mean, in having these people working in our district really has been extremely helpful in maintaining these buildings.
It has, and that's incredible, and we want to thank them as well for all the work that they do for us and for the community. The next couple of questions that we've been getting on and off had to do with the prudence around expanding classroom sizes to 900 square feet and more, to make larger classrooms so that we can make sure that for children who need larger spaces, particularly students with IEPs, and our ability to keep our children in district so that we're not they're not out of district, and also to tuition in students from other districts. Could you explain why those larger spaces are not just because we want larger spaces, but they do in fact serve some of our long-term programming goals?
So it wouldn't. So the larger now the classrooms that are now part of the current design that is what we have before us from our architects, the fully designed project. The classrooms now in the addition are slated to be 900, I think 20 or 40 square feet classrooms. Now, the pre-bond estimates, we were using a bit of a smaller footprint because I think in thinking of different uses of those classrooms, again, it was in schematic design. But in terms of the classroom sizes that now are being, that are part of the current design, they really reflect what we have many classrooms of that size currently in the building, and what the thought process was also to allow for K-1-2 to have a consistent size classroom. I mean, when I say consistent, meaning over 900 square feet, because some are actually exceed that. We have kindergarten classrooms that are currently over 1,000 square feet in size, and the larger classrooms can include a restroom, a single toilet area, which again is consistent with the majority of our K-1-2 classrooms. And I think in terms of it gives us greater flexibility. It allows for different type of programming to be in those rooms, but it also is something that I think as we thought about those spaces really is better from a security perspective in terms of not having children having the younger students to be in the hallways. So I think in looking at what is currently included in this design, it was felt as though that was fairly consistent with the classrooms and the use of those classrooms.
And that, again, it's purposeful, and it is, forward-looking, and not just, looking at our current classroom settings, but that, we want those classrooms to serve the needs of different learners, and that, if we do want spaces that can accommodate, instructional part of the classroom as well as the multi-sensory part of the classrooms, because we have different kinds of learners and needs. And also the service delivery model for students, with IEPs, that we want a push-in model. We don't want to pull children out of those classrooms. And the larger those classrooms are, the greater likelihood that we can bring those services to the classrooms and therefore not further, segregate those young children, and then also make it more difficult to deliver the services. So that's another really important point that we've been reiterating. And in terms of maybe one other question about the seating, because we did talk about some of the square footage, which would also gives us more storage. I hate for us to get those like storage units for things that we would want to have on hand. So could you speak to this whole notion of the seating and why that seating is again something that really helps us to think about the future as well as our current needs?
So the seating that is being now is again included in the current design and the current price estimates for Hillside was again something that I guess as being flushed out in the design process. The thought in terms of getting the use of that space, it was designed to have a retractable seating, which again would allow for maybe varied use of the space. Initially, we were thinking of something. Using it and having a stage that was up, and then by flattening the floor, which kind of allowed for some of the other areas of the building to be designed a little bit differently, so that would require then some type of seating. So I think in terms of looking at the retractable seating allows for the cafeteria space to have more of that flexible space use, because then you can level the floor, and that can also allow the room to be broken up into different kind of learning spaces, and to also be used for different types of programming, whether during the day, after the school day, before the school day, So I think it was a cost again that is part of the overall cost escalation, is the price of having the seating included in that room.
And was part of the development that associated with this notion that we really in Hastings don't have like a community center type of location that within our schools, because our schools are really are the center of the community, which you said before. Are we envisioning making the space available to our community for any variety of activities or events, whether it is maybe a college wants to collaborate with us and use the space, or we do that in collaboration with other groups of people or agencies. So there's also that notion of potentially generating other revenue sources by having that kind of space available. And maybe a university or college doesn't need to have a class taught downtown Manhattan or north of us, but that this could also be a potential option for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the space is designed in a way that it can open up a lot of opportunities for the use. I think the original design also, of course, included that the notion that it would be used for a variety of purposes. But I think in terms of again the current design with the seating that now becomes necessary by flattening the space does allow for I would say an expanded use of the space. And I think to your point there. The space is not only used by the district, but certainly is used by others
community
as well.
Space and organizations.
Yep.
Is there any other point that you think we should share before we close this with some reminders of dates? We have a couple of other opportunities for our community to engage with us and to hear from some other members of our community, largely the construction community. Could you talk about the January 29th meeting that's scheduled?
Sure. So on January 29th at 6:30, we are going to be hosting an information session down at the James Harmon Community Center here in town. And it's really to give people an opportunity to, again, see what the design of Hillside currently includes and have an understanding of how things have evolved from our last vote in last winter. and to really be able to have our construction managers and our professional team who has been charged with, creating this work and the pricing and really give people a better understanding of the different factors and give just be able to answer any questions. We want to make sure that I know there's many questions and people try to get a good understanding of why things and why there's this need to get some additional funds. And I think by hosting this, we hope that people will take advantage of this evening and again be able to hear from the people who have been working so closely to it, and certainly would be able to speak to from a technical standpoint in both the construction industry with our construction managers and our architects about the project itself and and certainly the pricing and the costs associated with what that design is currently.
And what's interesting in the last meeting that we had with them, I was struck by their assessment of sort of how they've seen as they've traveled around the country, because they have businesses. I mean, they're doing projects all around the country. That they've seen these kinds of ambitious projects where the communities are really looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years or more out with regards to how those spaces can be used, because it isn't just the time when the children are in the schools. It's also after the hours. It's it's on weekends. It's on during the summer. So the architects and the construction managers, as you mentioned, have a lot of years of experience. Not only doing this work in public school settings, but also other organizations. So that's also the value of our public being able to come out and talk to them and hear from their years of expertise. And then you've worked on multiple projects in this district, so this is the opportunity for our community to really come out and hear at a deeper level why it is that this design at Hillside was chosen.
Yes, and just understand all the costs that are associated with it, and again, we were open to. There's things that people have questions prior to that or are unable to make that particular night. We hope to be able to answer as much as we can, and certainly if there's a question and we can get it, if we're unable to answer, we can always ask our architects and construction managers to address any questions or concerns people may have.
Absolutely. And in between that time, we have a board meeting on January 27th where Maureen again will provide some more updates. And as we get questions from the community, we do make every effort to answer those. And so there's typically a set of slides that are presented. And so that will continue at the January 27th meeting. We will also, leading up to the February 6th vote, have some posters around in our entrances that have QR codes, and the QR codes will take you right to a repository of other information, including our winter newsletter, which contains a vast amount of information about the construction project. In addition, we'll have a special budget newsletter that really delineates all the details that have been shared and presented at board meetings, as well as information from the 2 videos that Maureen and I have made, a whole vast array of information that's been provided. That QR code will be that place to get to all of that. So with that said, I hope that this gives you the kind of information that you need to, in preparation for the February 6th vote. And Maureen and I thank you for your time and for listening to the video. We hope that it's been very helpful. So thank you very much again, Valerie Henning Piedmont, Superintendent of Schools,
and Maureen Carvalho. Thank you.
Thank you.